Hey, hello everybody. I'm Jeff with eBay Addicts, and today I have a special guest with me today. I have Caleb Roth is on with me. How are you doing today?
What's up, Jeff? Thanks for having me. I am well, considering it's a Monday, but Mondays are good now that we're entrepreneurs.
I was getting ready to say the same thing, man. When you're an entrepreneur, everybody talks about Monday, they talk about hump day, they talk about thank God it's Friday, and I'm just like, my days kind of run together.
They
So, hey,
do. Yep.
today's title of our video, guys, is we're going to talk to Caleb Roth about how he built his seven-figure Amazon business, primarily selling used books. So that's going to be the title of our video. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And then we're going to talk about tips and tricks and advice for newbies if you guys want to get started into reselling on Amazon. I know the large majority of you guys sell on eBay, but you could be at a yard sale or a thrift store and be walking by profitable items and not even know it if you just took 5 minutes out of your day to go by and scan some barcodes. So real quick, Caleb, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience, just in case people don't know who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Caleb Roth. I currently live in Indiana. I'm more proud of the fact that I used to live in Colorado. So a lot of you think I still live in Denver. That's cool with me. I think I look cooler when you assume I'm from there. I did grow up in Michigan. My Lions won this weekend, so we got our first victory of the year, and I've been proudly wearing this gear. Another fella named Jeff actually gave it to me. He's a reseller, and now I can wear it with pride. So I'm a Michigander that identifies as a Coloradoan, but currently living in Indiana.
All right, cool. So Caleb, you're a full-time reseller now. You primarily sell books on Amazon. This is your full-time gig. But on my channel, we talk a little bit about how you got started, because it's not like you didn't just roll out of bed one day and be like, hey, I'm ready to quit my job and become a full-time reseller. So if you don't mind, give us a brief synopsis of how you got started being a reseller and how you kind of transitioned from working your full-time gig to being a full-time reseller, kind of how that transition went, because you're married and you have a wife and kids and a family. So it's not like you can just be like, see ya, I'm putting my 2 weeks notice in and I'm out of here, right?
It was a little more complex than that. I'll give you the 3-minute version. How's that?
Okay, go ahead.
It's a longer story, but I flipped stuff back in high school. I was actually selling a ton of stuff on eBay, going to garage sales on my bicycle, and we would research stuff. We kind of settled on books because they're really easy. Like, most of them have barcodes, they're durable. You can chuck 40 of them in a box, and it's really easy to cart around, albeit heavy. And so kind of just specialized in books, did a little bit more of that in college, and then just kind of forgot about it. I studied business, worked for Johnson & Johnson, did medical device marketing, sales, and a little bit of sales training. So actually was in the corporate world for 5.5 years, thinking that that's what I was going to do. So I was climbing the corporate ladder. They paid well. It seemed like everything was good, but that's not really what I wanted to do. So was looking, trying to go, hey, I got to figure out a way to get out of this at some point, maybe switch gigs. Maybe, I really am an entrepreneur, but wasn't living like it. I'd say the best thing I did while I was there, I talked to a ton of people that have day jobs. If you have a day job and you don't hate it, you don't need to quit, right? So stick with it. I would say the best thing you can do during a day job is two things. One, work on a side hustle. So all of these things we're going to talk about today don't have to be full time. They can just be on the side. And secondly, live below your means. If you're making an average salary, but you're spending way more than that, you'll never get out of it. But if you're also making a ridiculous salary, but you're spending right up under it or over it with credit cards, you'll still never have that margin that we talk about in business. You won't have that margin to be able to quit. So I had a good salary, not ridiculous, but a good salary that lived well, flexibility to build up a war chest to be able to eventually quit. And what I did is I did not quit. I didn't walk into my boss and say, hey, in 2 weeks, you're going to notice I haven't been here in 2 weeks. Peace. I didn't do that. I started on the side. I got books going and garage sales, just like most of you are doing. And I just started with a challenge of, can I find 100 good books a week that I can resell? And that turned into 200 a week, and then 300 a week. And that ramped up to the point where I realized, hey, I can actually make a run of this. And the other benefit was, if I was trying to replace my salary, that would have been difficult. I was trying to replace my standard of living, which was a little bit easier. That was lower because I had that margin. So because I was chasing that, once those numbers got close to where I knew I could make a run of it, especially if I went full time, I kind of transitioned out. And I haven't looked back in about 6 years.
Yeah, I know that we're primarily, an entrepreneur and reselling type of channel, but and we're not really a personal finance channel. But I talk about a lot of the same things you're talking about now, as far as living below your means. I mean, I know people that make $100,000 a year, but they're still in that 75 to 80% of the people bracket that are living paycheck to paycheck, because it's like if you go make 100 grand a year, but you go buy a $50,000 truck, and you have a motorcycle and you have an RV, all these extra monthly payments start adding up. So if you could kind of, I encourage people to keep their full-time gig and then take that extra capital that you're on the side gig, you're side hustling from reselling on eBay and Amazon, and maybe get out of debt. If you have credit card debt, student loans, car payments, anything like that, kind of reduce your expenses. So now if you're able to live below your means, now you have, people call it disposable income, but now you have an extra pile of income that you can kind of invest. Now, a lot of people talk about investing in the stock market, and I was watching some of your interviews, Caleb, and we kind of think similar. When you're buying inventory to resell on eBay and Amazon, it's similar to buying a stock. Let's say if someone was going to buy a stock for $10 and then 6 months later sell it for $20. What we're doing is similar, where we're saying, hey, I bought these pair of shoes at Ross for, let's say $19.99, and I'm going to flip them and sell them on eBay for $100. So what we're doing is similar mindset, but you have to have capital to invest. If you don't have capital to invest, you're kind of running around in circles like a dog chasing his tail. So Caleb, since this is your
and real quick on that topic, finance, and a lot of that is compounding. So the idea of interest stacking on top of interest, stacking on top of interest. The more you can delay gratification, if you want that boat or that RV or the Tesla or the motorcycle, whatever your toy is, whatever your dream is, don't buy it today on credit. Delay that gratification. Spend that time instead building something that's going to keep paying you. My big thing is start up, scale up, and then step back. So find a way to hire other people. I get to bless their lives. I get to contribute to their lives. But if I set the systems up right, that also then adds a revenue stream for me, and I can go and focus on that next income stream. So as much as you can, live below those means. Doesn't mean that material possessions, that having goals and dreams is wrong. It just means wait. And it's pretty cool when you can pay yourself or buy that toy with residual income or passive income from a business that's generating money, and your time is being spent primarily elsewhere. So just delay, have some sort of a margin. And I do say, like, your personal finances dictate how you run your business. So be smart in your personal finances. That'll spill over into your business, and vice versa.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I've always been wanting to buy a Corvette ever since I was a little kid. But then when you sit down and you crunch the numbers and you're like, okay, which one is feasible? Is it more feasible for me to drive a car like a Prius that's going to get 50 miles at the gallon of gas, that's cheap on insurance and cheap on maintenance? Or do I want to get this two-seater sports car that's going to be in the shop every 3 to 6 months, having some type of repairs or, a paint job or something like that that's always needed to be worked on? So, hey, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice to help somebody out if they wanted to make a full-time income from reselling books on Amazon? What would be your top 3 pieces of advice? And one thing I wanted to touch on real quick that you talk about is reinvesting your capital back into your business. So it's like, let's say, you get a payout from Amazon. If you take that payout from Amazon and you go on a vacation, or you go buy a watch, or you spend it on some consumer product instead of taking that capital to reinvest, well, guess what? The next following month, you're right here where you were before. You're not able to stack it and build your business because you're running around in circles from one week to the other. So go ahead, Caleb. Give us your top 3 tips or piece of advice to help somebody out with their book selling business.
Well, I'm just going to give you generic advice on any type of business. I'm biased towards books. That's where I was able to quit my job and step aside. We also make software. I run a couple software companies: eFlip, Scout IQ, Pallet IQ is kind of a more niche product. And then I help Matthew with New Price, and I've actually consulted on AccelerList. So I'm involved heavily in the software space for booksellers and Amazon sellers. I like books, but I'm just passionate about business. So I'll give you advice, but if your audience is already tuning out going, I could care less about books, that's fine. This advice will still work. So all of that intro to say three things that I would say. First off, you have to know your numbers. So you have to have some kind of a system. You don't have to have a degree in accounting. You don't have to set up everything properly in like a business bank account. You don't have to do all of those things. Those are all helpful. But understand your numbers. If you're buying something for $3, but it also costs you $1 in gas to get there and back, Like, understand that that's actually $4. And if you're selling it for $3.50, you're still losing money. So having a basic understanding of the numbers to know that whatever you're flipping is making money, and understanding that what you don't sell. So if you buy something for 20 and it never resells, that's all sunk costs. How do you factor that in? So understand your numbers. That's going to help you to run this thing smartly, smarter, more smartly. Number two would be to just get started. I think people would get paralysis by analysis, and you're scared and go, well, what if this doesn't work? Or, can I actually do this? Or do I need to have an LLC first? Again, all of those things are great. There's an awesome community of resellers that you can learn from, but just get started. Just have a bias toward action. Most of the time you can put the pieces back together. I know accountants everywhere are cringing, but just get started, because let's say you go for 3 months and realize it's not for you. That's all right. You could just kind of wind it down, and you didn't waste the time on a business bank account and setting up an LLC and doing all these things that are really only necessary if you ramp up. So know your numbers, just get started, have that bias for action. And then probably number three is, you're all watching this anyway, but focus on education. Whatever you can do, get some books, find some blog posts, find YouTube videos. There's great paid training. I have nothing wrong with paid training. I know a lot of people like to shame paid training. Pay for it if it's useful for you, but there's also tons of free training. So put your mind to it, study, and part of that education process is networking. So comment in the comments here, find Facebook groups. If you're social, want to go meet people in person, do that as well. We have a phenomenal community of resellers here. Jeff, you're building one yourself, so kudos to that. There's, we talked about Romer and Rakin and Reezy, and there's all kinds of personalities and people that have just built great communities. So those are my three things. Know your numbers, just get started, and have a bent toward education and networking.
Yeah, there's tons of people in the community that if you're willing to take 5 minutes out of your day and send them an email or reach out to them on Instagram and saying, hey, I'm having problems with XYZ issue, they're usually 9 times out of 10, they've been in the exact same situation you are, in the exact same problem you have, and they can usually kind of guide you and walk you through the process. And it's not just me and Caleb Roth. There's plenty of people that are in a situation where we're like, hey, dude, I don't mind taking 5 or 10 minutes out of my day to help you out. And so, yeah, and another thing is, if you don't take action, then a lot of the stuff we're saying today is just going to be hot air. So if it goes in one ear and out the other, and you don't take action, then it hasn't benefited you in any way. So, hey, this video, I want to kind of geared towards, beginners or newbies. So I got a bunch of questions that I wrote down real quick. So I'm going to do kind of rapid fire. Are you ready?
Let's go.
So, okay, so I'm going to be, I want to get started reselling books on Amazon. What is my startup capital that I'm going to need to get started in this business? And, people talk about being gated on Amazon. When you sell books, you're not particularly gated on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, there's some textbooks that are gated. There's some books that are going to be a little harder, but in general, books is a wide open category. It's pretty easy to get started. So you're going to have to get your Amazon account. You're going to probably have to get a pro seller account, which is $40 a month. That's going to allow you to use third-party software, which is going to speed you up. Again, if you're worried about all that, you can just get started. You can use, list right onto Amazon Seller Central without paying for tools. But in general, you're going to want some kind of tools. Obviously, a shameless plug for Scout IQ. You can get started for $14 a month with that. That's a tool that we put all of our logic into it. And it says buy the book or don't buy it. So you don't even have to understand what the numbers mean. The app literally turns green and says this book, you should buy it and try and flip it because there's potential here. So you probably need some software for scouting, some kind of software for listing like AccelerList or ScanLister. And then you're going to need some money for inventory. And I'm assuming you have a car or transportation or ways to get to the thrift stores already. So I'd probably say, if you had access to $1,000, that's going to be really helpful. You're not going to need that from day one. But anything, whether it's eBay or Amazon, is an inventory game. And I call things games. People get offended. It's just a game, right? We're trying to make money. And if you have a good mentality there, it's not life or death. It's just business. So the problem with inventory is you buy a really good book for $1 that might sell and make you $8 after fees, which is awesome. 8-to-1 returns, phenomenal. But you don't get to capture that $8 until it actually sells. And that money comes back to your account from Amazon. That whole round trip sometimes can take 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes it can take 2 or 3 months. Sometimes it can take 2 or 3 years. So you need to be prepared for that and understand that it's not just get rich quick. You can't just flip a few books and all of a sudden quit your day job. You need to be committed to it. So the larger pile of cash you have, the better. But you don't need 20 grand, 10 grand, 5 grand even. If you had $1,000 or even $500, that should be enough runway for you to see if it's possible and if you enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. When I'm listing items on eBay, I kind of have this thing where I'm writing myself, a check into my eBay bank account, so to speak. So if I'm listing a $20 item and you're waiting for it to sell, and I'm like, okay, I just wrote myself a check for $20. So it may not clear the bank right away. It may take 30, 60, 90 days for that check to clear the bank, but it's going to clear. And a lot of these items, you want to kind of look at them almost like poker chips. It's like you take your poker chip to the cashier station, and then you're going to be able to cash your poker chips out, but it's not going to be immediately. So you want to create an account. You don't need a lot of capital, around $500 to $1,000. Now, how do you go about sourcing the books, and how do you go about listing the books on Amazon? Because I want to have this kind of geared towards a newbie Amazon reseller.
Yeah, if you're brand new and don't know what you're doing and you're just nervous, there's a lot of things you got to figure out. Not only how to find them, how to research it, know if it's good, how to interpret the data, how to list them, how to ship the orders. There's a lot that goes into it. We have a free training. So if you're a Scout IQ customer, if you go to scoutiq.co, some schmuck in I think it's Nebraska won't sell us the .com domain name. So if you're watching, tell me the domain name. But anyway, he's got a personal project wants to use it for. So scoutiq.co, and we have free training. So once you sign up for our trial, you don't even have to pay us. You get 2 weeks free. We've got a free course called Scout IQ University. It's right there. And we actually literally take a camera, follow me. Matthew, my business partner, follows me at a thrift store. We go through, I show you exactly how to find the books, how I'm interpreting the data on Scout IQ, how we take them back home, we list them, we ship them into Amazon. So all of that process, it's too much to answer here in 30 seconds, but all of that is included for free. But in terms of where do you find books, thrift stores, library sales are going to be the two most common sources. And then you can put posts on Nextdoor. You can ask, put posts out on Facebook Marketplace, say, hey, I'm doing a free book haul off service. I'll come get your books. Almost everybody has books in their house, and we don't like to throw them away. That feels wrong. We don't like to burn books. That's really wrong. So we end up holding on to them, and eventually we drop them at Goodwill or Salvation Army or a local thrift store. So if you can get upstream, if you can get in between people and them taking them to Goodwill, or heck, you offer to go pick them up for them, that's a really great way to get free books.
Yeah, for sure. I have a link to Caleb Roth's YouTube channel. So that link he was talking to you guys about the Scout IQ University, there's a link on that YouTube video. So if you click on the link below to his YouTube channel, it'll take you straight to his YouTube channel, and then there will be a little link that will take you to the Scout IQ University. Next thing I want to talk about is sales rank on Amazon. On eBay, we can look at items and it'll tell us what's sold over the last 90 days. So you know if it's a hot selling item or if it's something you want to pass on. Because a lot of times you could walk by and say, hey, I picked this item up at the thrift store for $1, and maybe it says it sells for $20 on eBay, but what's the sales history of that item? So I want to talk about the sales rank and the rate of return and the profit margin on a book. A lot of times you can get books inexpensively, but you need to decide, what is the profit margin that you're aiming for? You're going to pay $1 for a book and try to sell it for $10? What is the profit margin and what is the sales rank that you try to stick to?
Yeah, so sales rank on Amazon. Amazon is really, really smart. They rolled this out probably near the beginning. And every category, so books is its own category, DVDs, CDs, music, movies, those type of things, toys, kitchen. They have a ton of different categories. In every category, one is the most well-selling item in the last hour. Rank remembers, it goes back longer than that, but it typically updates a couple times a day. They say every hour. I don't know if that's always true. And so one is the best seller on Amazon. It's usually a brand new fiction book that just came out or a business book or something. What happens then is over time, those ranks slip, other books replace them. And again, the ranks are being refreshed all the time. A book ranked 1 million sounds really high. There's 1 million books more popular on Amazon in the last hour or day or however long it remembers than that book. But all that means is the book didn't sell for about 5 or 6 days. So rank, there's a ton of books on Amazon. There's 20 something million books listed. If you clean up duplicate orders and everything, it's probably still about 15 million books in the catalog. It's huge. So rank is a measure of that. We don't really go by that. We actually have our own metric called e-score, and that's the number of days with at least one sale in the last 6 months. So rank can be misleading. A book can, climb. I'm going backwards because my camera's backwards. A book can climb and get to 10 million rank, and all of a sudden it sells a copy and drops to 100,000. Well, if you scanned that book yesterday and saw that it was ranked 10 million, you'd go, I'm not going to buy it, even if it's a $100 book. If you scan that book today, now that the ranks dropped, and say, hey, it's a $100 book with 100,000 sales rank, you're going to buy 50 of them. So rank is very misleading. We built eScore to smooth that out, and we tell you that the eScore on that book is 1. It sold once in the last 6 months. So in terms of ROI, our app does it automatically, but you can adjust the rules. If a book is selling all the time, odds of it selling again quickly are high. Therefore, you can accept really small margins because it's almost a sure thing. Now, make sure you value your time, your effort to list it, your return rate, all of that. But in general, if it's very likely to sell, you can accept small margins. On the other side of the equation, if a book is not selling very often, if the rank is really high, if there's maybe one sale on eBay in the last 90 days or whatever metrics you're used to checking, then you need to have a lot larger margins to account for the fact that they're not going to sell quickly, and your copy may never sell. I talk about it like a stock market or a pool of inventory. I like to say that every book you purchase that you bring into your business, you're throwing into a funnel. And some of those books will never sell, but every day, a couple of those will squeeze through the funnel and drop into your bank account, that's what we're kind of all after. I like finding books, but I like making dollars more than I like finding books. So your pool of inventory, if you have a pool of inventory that's all long tail items, which just means they don't sell very often, you're not going to sell one particular book very quickly. But if you have 1,000 of those that are really old and don't sell that often, you might sell 2 or 3 or 4 every single day. So that portfolio will pay you dividends as long as the profit is high enough. So if you're going to list a ton of stuff that only has $1 of profit and they only sell once every 6 months, that's a really good recipe to go out of business. So if it doesn't sell very often, you need to have a higher profit margin. What is that for you? I don't know. But in general, if it's a sure thing or almost a sure thing, you can get by with razor thin margins. If it's not a sure thing, then you need to have much higher margins, and then everything in between, somewhere in between that.
Yeah, Caleb, you're speaking my language when you start talking about building up a portfolio, and it's like similar to just like almost like someone would buy, Ford stock or General Electric or the S&P index. It's similar to that, except you're investing in products. So we don't have that much time left. I wanted to touch on Amazon fees. I wanted to touch on the restock limits, and I wanted to touch on how important it is to reinvest capital back in your business. So can you touch on those 3 topics real quick?
Sure. Amazon fees, again, our Scout IQ will tell you what those fees are. In general, you have to decide if you're selling merchant fulfilled or if you're selling fulfillment by Amazon, where you ship it to their warehouse and they ship it back out. Either way, the fees are mostly the same. It's $1.80 per book plus 15% of the sales price. And then you have to pay for shipping, or you can charge that back to the customer. So in general, it's $1.80 plus 15%. When you do FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, that means if you're shipping it to their warehouse, so you have some cost to ship it to them, and they're going to charge you more than media mail rates to ship it out because they're going to handle all of the customer support, everything else. So in general, it depends on the weight of the book. That's the biggest factor. If you sell a $10 book fulfilled by Amazon, you're going to make anywhere from $1.50 to maybe close to $4. Just depends on the weight. So those are fees. Again, our app tells you exactly what the fees are going to be. So we do everything based off profit, not off the fees. So that's the first one. Second one is restock limits. And right now, Amazon's warehouses are full. So e-commerce doubled in 2020, thanks to COVID. I think it grew 97%. Amazon grew their warehouse infrastructure 50%. So even though they grew, most of their warehouses are 1 million plus square feet, they added 50% capacity to their warehouses, which is unbelievable. They still could not keep up with the demands that COVID brought for e-commerce goods. So Amazon's warehouses are full. They don't want us just to be able to send them 50 pallets of material or 50 truckloads of material, as some of my friends send them. And so what they did is they said, we're going to have restock limits. If you sell your items quickly, these weren't really built for booksellers. If you sell your items quickly, we'll open you up and you can keep sending more in, because Amazon does not want to store your inventory. If your stuff does not sell quickly, which unfortunately books do not sell as quickly as toys or kitchen products as a rule, then we get a little bit hampered and our limits go down. So I know many of my friends are struggling with those limits. You've either had to, only send in the best of the best, or potentially merchant fulfill, because there's no restock limits if you want to fulfill it yourself out of your garage or third bedroom or whatever. And you had a question 3, which I forgot.
Yeah, the last question is about reinvesting capital back in your business, because you have a 7-figure business that you have with Amazon, but to me, I feel like the number one key is reinvesting capital back in your business, because if you don't feed the beast, the Amazon beast, and allow it to grow and scale, you're never going to have a 6 or 7-figure business if you don't reinvest capital back in your business. So go ahead and touch on that one real quick.
Yeah, you get to, we get to choose as entrepreneurs, what's the next best use of capital. And again, it goes back to delayed gratification. If I got really excited the first time I made $1,000 in my business and pulled that back out and bought a really nice set of golf clubs or shoes or whatever is important to me, then I just basically reset my business back to zero. My mind's there. I know what to do, but I go back out and I say, man, there's this great opportunity to buy a storage unit full of books. It's $800. Crap, I just spent it. So you have to have some amount of firepower, or what do they call it? Gunpowder.
Ammunition.
You gotta have something to be able to throw at it. If you don't, money is somewhat cheap, but I don't really advocate going in debt to do things. So at first, your inventory, your money that you take or make, you should not take it out if you can avoid it. Now, again, if you have to, because that's your only source of income, then you try and live on as little as possible, right? But I would advocate, take that money until you can no longer throw it on inventory. Once you've kind of reached that point, then start hiring people, maybe ramp up, get some space, invest in better software, invest in better book carts and tools that just make your job easier. Because everything's about efficiency. We're selling a couple hundred books at a time. And so when we go to pull those orders off the shelf and ship them out, every time we touch a book and go over to the computer station and print a label, all of those touches matter, because if we can improve that by 10%, we spend a lot of labor hours shipping books every month. And if we can make a small improvement of 10%, that's going to pay me back, which then I can then reinvest into the business. But the goal of the business is not just to build a really big business. So start with the end in mind. What's your number? What are you after? Are you trying to make 30 grand a year? Great. Once you're there, reevaluate, say, hey, look yourself in the mirror. My goal was 30. I'm there. Now what? Is that good? Because we end up chasing growth and say, well, next year I have to do better. Well, why? If 30 grand is the number that you can live on, you're happy with, and again, that's just fictitious numbers. Hopefully it's a little bit higher target, but whatever that number is, great. If you can hit it, then that frees you up and allows you to spend time doing other things that you actually care about.
Yeah, having that time freedom, and like what you like to do is like to be able to travel a lot. But I just want to interject one thing, is that if you guys don't notice, you can't be stagnant. Like, the economy, the cost of inflation is continually rising. So if you're stagnant year after year after year, it's like your business is sinking in quicksand. So you can't be stagnant and say, okay, in 2022, I'm at 30 grand a year, and in 5 years later, I'm still at 30 grand a year, because the cost of, let's say, gas or groceries or your cell phone bill, or let's say the cost of your utilities, are going to steadily increase. So you don't want your business to just flatline. So just make incremental little bit of progress every 6 months or every year, and you can sit down and evaluate and say, okay, what's working, what's not working. And just like Caleb was talking about, what little tweaks can you move to the left or the right to kind of help boost your business? It doesn't have to, on Amazon, once you start getting ungated, you don't have to just sell books. This is kind of like a gateway and entryway to sell things on Amazon, because a lot of them aren't gated. So, hey, this video went on a little bit longer than I wanted it to. So tell everybody where they can go by and check you out at on YouTube and Instagram, so they can go by and follow you, Caleb. I have your links listed down below in the description, but go ahead.
Perfect. YouTube is the Book Flipper Community. Facebook is the Book Flipper Community. Instagram is at the Book Flipper. I'm on TikTok. It's just at Caleb Roth. I think there's like 3 videos, so I'm not really there, but go there, follow me, bug me to put more content out. But Instagram is probably the main one, and then our Facebook group as well. Okay, cool. And you want to plug your program? You mentioned Scout IQ earlier, and what's the other one? It's not Inventory Labs. What's the other one? I get it mixed up. I'm invested in Acceler lists. I also have an arbitrage tool. If you don't want to go to thrift stores, you can check out eflip.co. But Scout IQ is our big one. We're going to be putting most of our eggs into that basket. So scoutiq.co. It just tells you whether a book is good or not. It's like having me in your pocket telling you, buy that, don't buy that. And for some of you, that's a scary thought. Hopefully it's an encouraging thought. And, we've got a lot of customers that have anywhere from a side hustle to a full-time gig because of our tools. And we're really proud of that. Hey, that sounds like a good plan. If you can
you can get us you could get a software and have Caleb to say, don't do this and don't do that. That sounds like a good deal. Hey, give me your final thoughts and then we'll let you go, Caleb. I appreciate you taking time out of your Monday to come and hang out with our audience and chit chat with us about e-commerce and more. Go ahead and give us your final thoughts.
Final thoughts. If you're still watching this and haven't taken action, get out there, download a free trial of our app, follow, whatever tools Jeff's telling you to check out on the eBay side, and just get started. You probably have something on your shelves, in your closet, in your basement, somewhere that you could actually flip. And just understand that, like, e-commerce, we think it's everywhere because that's the world that we're in. E-commerce is still less than 20% of total retail. There's a lot of room for it to grow. So just get started. It's not for everybody, but you don't know until you try. So this is all great. Education's phenomenal, but go act on it.
Yeah, guys, getting started. And if you look at a chart or a graph over the past 20 years of e-commerce sales, I'd say since like the year 2000, let's say, it's just going up gradually year over year over year. And so think about where it's going to be in the year 2050. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous. There's not going to be a lot of these brick and mortar locations. It's going to be more and more online. So you have a golden opportunity to get started and to kind of build your foundation now. Anyways, go follow our guests. All the links are going to be down below to Caleb Roth. Go follow him on YouTube and Instagram. And don't be shy to pick his brain or go follow him on YouTube. And he has question and answer sessions. I was at the last question and answer session. I don't know if you saw me, but I was in there. Anyways, I will catch you guys later. You guys have a great day and go ahead and follow our guests and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.